Hi folks, what I'm going to show you how to do today is how to make a ring-and-ring friction saver with Samson Arbormaster rope. Samson Arbormaster comes in different colors. This is the Hawkeye version. It's a 16 strand rope. It's relatively inexpensive, costs about 95 cents a foot, and it's real tough. So it's a good rope for making friction savers. If you don't know what a friction saver is, it's just a piece of webbing or rope that goes over the limb and has a couple of rings in it like this. Your rope goes through those, when you put this over the limb, your rope goes through those rings and reduces friction on the rope as it moves through the system, but also makes it so your rope is not running over the top of the limb and doing any damage to the limb. So it reduces friction and reduces damage to the tree. To make one of these, you need a few basic tools. You need a tape measure, you need a couple of rings, a big ring and a little ring. You can get these from any of the arborist supply companies. You need a pair of scissors, you need a little marlin spike, you need a pair of needle nose pliers, okay? You need a felt tip marker, pocket knife comes in handy. A pair of cutting pliers like these are handy if you've got them, they're not essential. And you're going to need a couple of fids. You're going to need a wire fid like this one. I'll pan out just a little here. This is a 32-inch wire fid. I got this one from Mark at Fids and Fibers. You can make them. You can make homemade ones if you want, but you need a wire fid like that. If you have one, a Brian Toss splicing wand like this is really handy. You don't have to have this, but it is helpful. All right, so to make one of these, you need a piece of rope, obviously, and I have already cut that rope. This is a 9-foot long section of Hawkeye. Okay, I cut it 9 feet long. I'm going to make a ring-and-ring friction saver that's about 40 inches long. That's, I know from experience, that 9 feet will give me that. So the first thing I do is mark the middle of that piece of rope. That's my reference point for my layout, and everything that comes after is all based on that mark in the middle of the rope. So you put the two ends of the rope together over here, lay it out like that. Just bend it back on itself so it's laying like that to do the layout. Take your tape measure, set it up like this. Okay, put your center mark right over there. So your layout marks are going to be from that center point. You're going to measure over 6 inches here and make a mark on both sides of the rope. From there, you're also going to measure from the center point. You're going to measure 20 inches down the rope to there. That's going to be your. That's going to be the beginning of the eye. Okay, and then you're going to have a 5-inch eye. So we're going to make it 25 inches. We're going to make a third pair of marks. So those are our basic layout marks. I'm going to use a needle and thread to make those really obvious so that when we do our splice, you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just putting this thread through the outer strands on the cover just to make it really obvious where all those marks are. All right, so there's our layout marks. You got these two marks here at 6 inches from center, these two at 20 inches because it's going to be a 40-inch friction saver, so I know I've got to have a total of 20 plus 20 is 40, and then 5 inches for the eye. All right. Next thing we do is we do the layout for the taper on these the tails over here. From the last mark we made right there, we're going to start counting towards the tail, and we're going to mark 5 pairs of strands at 5-strand intervals to remove. So on one side, I'm just going to start counting towards the end, and I'm going to lay out 5 pairs at 5-strand intervals. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I mark that pair. And mark another pair, and just keep doing that. Until you have 5 pairs marked. Okay, so there's that side done. Now we'll do this side. All right, so there's our marks for our taper. Okay, before I start doing the taper, the next thing I want to do is pull the core out of the rope. So just go to one end of the rope. If you look down in there, you'll see those core strands. Take your needle nose pliers and grab a hold of those, being careful not to grab any of the cover strands. Start pulling those out of there. There's 8 of these in there, and you need to get them all. See how many we got here? See if we got them all. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 8 of them, all right? So just start pulling those out, and as you pull, milk the cover back away so that those core strands pull out of there. And you have to do that a few times. Just pull a bunch and then milk it back. And eventually they just let loose like that. Okay, so that just goes in the garbage. We're not going to use that, all right? So now we're ready to do our taper on the 2 tails. So I'll go over here to the first one, and you can see the pairs that I've got marked there. So just take your marlinspike and start pulling those out. And what you want to do as you pull these out is to pull away from the end of the rope. Don't pull from this direction or you'll bunch up the eye and ruin the splice. So grab the first one. This is always the hardest one. Just gently pry it back till you can get your pliers in there and pull it away from the end of the rope. Okay, so all I'm doing is just pulling myself a loop like that, okay? Once I get a hold of it, I just take it over to my cleat, and I use the cleat to apply pressure when I pull. As soon as I can, I wrap that strand around the cleat, and I keep milking it away as I pull that strand out of there. First 2 are always the hardest. After that, it gets progressively easier to pull these out. So just work your way up the rope, or up or down towards the tail. So this is the last of the 5 pairs on this end. Nope, it's actually the 4th. And 1 more to go. All right. So there are 5 pairs that are pulled out and ready to cut off. Just cut them off about 6 inches long. It's not critical. This just gets rid of a bunch of the excess material that you don't need. So there's our 5 pairs on that side. Got to do the same thing on the other end. So there's 5 pairs marked there and ready to be cut off. So just all right, so now if I'll lay this splice out like it's going to look when it's all done. And it's going to look just like that. Okay, so the 2 eyes are down here at the ends, and then the tails overlap in the middle of the rope here. So that's what we're going to do. So the next step now is to bury those tails inside the core. To do that, I'm going to take this tape off because tape will keep the rope from expanding and could make it hard to pull things through. Okay, with the first bury, we're going to use the toss wand. I could use the wire fid, but it's just easier to do this one with the toss wand. Okay. All right. So with the first bury, what I'm going to do is bury this tail inside the rope here. To do that, I need to run the splicing wand in here and out over here at this side of the eye. So we're just going to go in just like this. Just push it in right there by the string. You can get rid of that string now, we don't need it anymore. And push it on through. And bring it out over here at the beginning of our eye. So right there. Okay, so you open up your snare on the wand. Push through about 1.5 inches or so of material. Sometimes it helps to prune a little of it off at an angle, but not critical. And then just start milking. You can take this string out here now, it's just going to be in our way. Okay, you're going to start milking that this way and pull this inside. Oh, almost forgot. Got to put your ring in there. That would have been embarrassing. Put your ring in there. If you forget to do that, you end up doing it all over again. So now we're going to milk this way. Just bunch all this up and kind of wiggle it back and forth until this goes inside. You got one inside there? And just keep pulling until it comes out over here. Just wiggle that back and forth, and there comes our tail. So now we can open up the wand, take it off, and we are done with the splicing wand. Okay. So once you get that through there like that, what we're gonna do now is bury this inside there. So before we do that, we need to cut these strands off that are out here that we pulled out earlier. So just cut them off where they come out of the rope. All right, so now that's ready to bury. To bury this, I'm going to go over here and put this in my vise and just clamp it in there, put that little tail in there. Actually, I can pull it a little bit tighter probably. Yeah, good. Okay, so just pull a little bit, stick that tail in the vise and clamp it in there really tight. You could wrap this around a cleat if you wanted to, but I like the vise. And then I'm going to put my gloves on, and I'm going to pull this out straight, and now I'm just going to milk that cover down until the eye closes up. So just start milking it along and pull that like that. This eye is about closed already. Just milk it along and pull, and as you do that, you'll see this eye close up, okay? All right, so we're just about there already. Just massage it a little bit here. And do that one more time. So see, now our eye is pretty much closed. So that side is buried. We're going to do the other side. Okay, so now this time I'm going to bury this tail inside here. It has to go all the way back through here. It overlaps the other tail inside the rope, clear over to this mark over here. So to do that, I've got to kind of bunch this up. I have to insert my wire fit in there and run it out clear over at the far eye. I'm going to go in right here at this mark. Doesn't have to be exact, but close. Now when I shove this through, I want to be really careful that I don't shove it down and get it caught up in any of these fibers of the other tail that's in there. So keep it right up along the back side of the rope there. Just shove it on through. Till it comes out clear over there by the far eye, okay? At this point, what I usually do is clamp down on the back of the fit here, just so that it doesn't move on me when I'm trying to get it inserted down at the far end. That just holds it tight so I can push against it. I'm going to go ahead and clamp this back here as well, just to keep it so it doesn't move on me. There. Okay. Now I can shove on that and hopefully get it to come out right here. This is always the hardest part, is getting that fid to pop out and come out. Okay, there we go. All right. So there's my wire fid. I can get these clamps out of my way and pull that fid on out. And we're going to put the tail in there, but we need to put the other eye on there. Okay, so there we go. So put the tail in there and pull that down tight like that. So now we just have to pull this back through there. To do that, I just put the end of my wire fit on the cleat right there so that I can go over here and milk it this way. Before I do that, I also have to cut these strands off here. The tapered strands. So there's that. So now what I'm going to do is bury this tail inside there, all right? To do that, I just pull on this right here until that buries or starts to go inside. So see that, how it went in there? Okay. And at that point, it's being pulled through, but it gets really hard to pull it through. So what I usually do is I reverse this at this point, and put this in the vise. So then I just go over here and pull on this until this whole thing will come through and pop out over here. So I'm going to get over here and pull hard, and that will pop through down there. There we go. Okay, see how that popped through right there? So now we have both tails pulled through there. And if you watch over here, this, as I pull on this, is closing up. Put down the vise and reverse it again so that I'm now pulling on this tail over here in the vise. So just milk that this way, and you'll see my eye is starting to bury here. Okay, I'm going to put my gloves on just so I can pull hard. I'm just bunching this up so I can close this eye right here, okay? Yeah, we're getting there. So milk this way, milk all that cover down, and just keep pulling hard right there. Okay, so there our eye just closed up. Give it one more pull. All right, perfect. So now we're going to pull all the bunching out of the cover so that the splice assumes its correct dimensions. So I just pull hard like that, and I start massaging the rope back and forth until I get all of the slack out of the system. Pull hard, make sure it stretches out completely. Okay. This is where it's really important to get everything stretched out. So there is our finished dimensions. We just have to get rid of these two tails here. To do that, we mark the tails where they come out of the rope. Just make a little mark on there with your felt tip marker. And then pull those out of there. Start pulling on one side and then the other, alternately pulling on the two sides. Then look for your mark. There's the mark that I made. Cut the tail off about 1/4 of an inch short of that mark. All right, and go to the other side, find your mark. It's right there. Okay, cut off about 1/4 of an inch short of that mark. And all we have to do to finish this is to taper those two tails. And if you recall, there are 6 strands left here. We removed 10 of the 16. So to taper, make a long gradual taper, I'm going to cut about every inch. I'm going to cut off 1 strand until I've cut 5 of the 6 strands. So cut the first strand right where it comes out. Cut the next strand about 1 inch up from there. And just keep stepping up at 1 inch intervals. Taking off 1 strand each time. Okay, so there's the first side. Let's do the same thing on the other. Take the first one right where it comes out and then step up at 1 inch intervals. Alright, so there's our taper. Now all we do is put it back on the cleat and pull on that, and when I do that you'll see that these ends will just bury, okay? Okay, so there you go. Then you just have to massage this back and forth, get all of the any kind of bunching that's in there out of there. And if you've done this splice right, you should, when you rub your hand across here, you shouldn't feel any bumps at all. All right, so there is the finished friction saver. Let's check it for dimensions. I'm curious to see how close we came out to 40 inches. 40 and a quarter. I'll take it. All right, so that is an I or ring and ring friction saver in Arbormaster rope. When I finish these, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to do some lock stitching to make sure that the splice can never work loose. But I've never seen one of these splices move at all. They're really pretty bomb-proof. So that's it. That's a ring and ring friction saver in Arbormaster. Thanks for watching.